Señoras, señores,
Ladies and gentlemen,
gobernantes de países del mundo,
leaders of countries of the world, I am very happy to address you on the occasion of the 75th anniversary of the United Nations Organization. I represent a great country, Mexico. We have a history and a cultural tradition just as other countries of the world do. At this point, I could talk to you about the major civilizations that played a part in the foundation of what our country is today. I could speak to you of the great cultures that flourished in what today is Mexico. I speak of civilization, I speak of cultures, because those who conquer, those who dominate, those who colonize, always try to justify their atrocities by denigrating the first peoples, by calling them barbarians or savages. This is not the case for Mexico, not for our people, nor is it the case for other peoples of the world who are dominated, conquered, and colonized. Mexico has an extraordinary history. It is a story of a struggle for freedom, for justice, for equality, a struggle to defend our national sovereignty. In the history of Mexico, there are three major transformations. The first was independence. After 300 years of being a colony, we gained our independence. That was the first transformation. It took place at the beginning of the 19th century. Two rebel priests, Miguel Hidalgo and Costilla, and José María Morelos Pavón, headed a movement to achieve Mexico's independence, which was also a movement for justice, because they were the first to proclaim the abolition of slavery. Then we had a second transformation in the middle of the 19th century, a very important change of worldwide significance. This was the reform movement. It was headed by a great leader, a liberal, the best president ever in our history, a Zapotec indigenous person, Benito Juárez García. He was known as the distinguished son of the Americas. He was so important, or rather, his work and his fame were so great that Benito Mussolini was given that first name because his father wanted him to have the same name as Benito Juárez. What did our founding father do with the reform that took place at that time? He separated the state from the church. He did that before other countries did. He put into practice the biblical principle of render unto God the things that are God's, and unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Then a third transformation took place at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century. This was the Mexican Revolution of 1910. It was a fight for democracy because we were suffering under a dictatorship that had been imposed for 34 years. We fought to guarantee the freedoms, and we also fought for justice. There were very important social leaders who emerged at the time. The Flores Magón brothers were precursors of that revolution. Another good man, an apostle of democracy, Francisco Madero, was murdered in the most cowardly fashion. There were social leaders like Francisco Villa, a leader who defended the rights of peasants. There was Emiliano Zapata, loyal to the people. And with this third transformation, much progress was made on the social front. But there was not enough progress made on the political front. And this was because it was not possible to establish a true democracy in Mexico. After the revolution, a single party was created which dominated the scene for a long time. It is only now that we are taking the first steps for Mexico to be a country which is truly, really democratic. Perhaps because of the lack of democracy, amongst other factors, Mexico's public life began to deteriorate. Political corruption began to prevail. And for a long time, this was the greatest problem Mexico faced. Our country has great natural resources, good lands for agriculture, abundant water, oil, mines, and a people which is good, noble, hardworking. This people is a holder of cultural heritage of thousands of years, which is the source of its vocation for hard work and creativity. But despite all of this, we could not make progress because of corruption, because of the prevailing corruption. For a long time, we have been struggling to achieve real change in Mexico. And after many years, the people of Mexico decided to do so too. They elected me, and I have set as my goal to undertake the fourth transformation of the public life of my country. I've already spoken about independence, reform, and revolution, and now I am determined and committed to conduct the fourth transformation in Mexico's public life, without violence and in a peaceful fashion. And we are achieving this despite the fact that we are facing two crises, the same crisis being faced in other countries of the world. We are facing the pandemic of the coronavirus, of COVID-19, this terrible disease. And we are also facing what triggered or gave rise to this pandemic, the economic crisis, as in other countries. So we are facing two crises at the same time. But we are coming out of them. We're making progress. We're responding to the pandemic. We have acted responsibly. We have received a lot of help from experts, scientists, doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, who have selflessly worked to save lives. And we are making progress. It is going down. The lethal effect of the pandemic is decreasing. The most important thing for us is saving lives. We are making progress. We are making progress on the economic front as well, because we are not applying the same old strategy of indebting the country, of rescuing those on top with the falsehood that heavy rain above will trickle down, as if wealth were contagious. So what did we do? From the grassroots up, we are directly supporting the people. It is from the bottom up. We are devoting resources that are the product of savings, because corruption is not being allowed, and this is also a product of Republican austerity, because there is no luxury in government. I'd like to mention to you that there was a presidential aircraft. Well, it still exists, but it's on sale. We raffled it, and we are still going to sell it. This aircraft is like a flying palace. It's a real insult, a slap in the face to our people. A luxury aircraft for 240 passengers, which has been refitted to accommodate just 80 people, with a meeting room, with bedrooms, something offensive. Let me say that once again. So I, as President of Mexico, travel by road, and I take commercial flights. Private aircraft or helicopters are not being used by officials or by civil servants. Also, amongst other things, I disbanded the elite presidential security service. Do you know how many people were in this service? There were 8,000 of them. This institution, this was a long-standing institution known as the Presidential General Staff. And in this way, I have gotten rid of luxuries and extravagances. You cannot have a rich government when the people are poor. So the formula is not to allow corruption, to save money, not to allow ostentatious displays of luxury in the government, and thus free up funds for development. So everything that we are gathering with this formula of not allowing corruption and having an austere, modest government is being devoted to support the poor, the dispossessed. All older adults, all seniors in Mexico have the right to a pension. All children, girls and boys with disabilities also receive a pension. 11 million poor students receive scholarships, and there are many other social programs. So what we are investing at the grassroots, together with the support that our migrant fellow citizens are providing to us, those who out of need went to seek a livelihood by working in the United States. There are already 38 million Mexicans, those born here and those who were born in the U.S. of Mexican parents. 38 million are helping us. They are sending economic support, financial support to their relatives in Mexico, the so-called remittances. This year, in spite of the pandemic, is going to be a record year for remittances. We anticipate that we will receive around $4 billion. Month after month, this money reaches 10 million poor families in Mexico. And so, with what we are investing as a government and with the remittances, we are strengthening consumption, and in spite of the pandemic and the crisis, there is no hunger in our country. We are guaranteeing basic consumption for millions of Mexicans. Little by little, the economy is recovering, and this is added to by the fact that we have just signed an agreement with the United States and Canada. This treaty has already entered into force. And what it means is that investment is coming to Mexico, companies are being set up here, and jobs are being created for the well-being of Mexicans. I have great faith in Mexico's future, but I also have great faith in the future of the world. I am a believer. My creed is universal brotherhood. And so I send to each and every one of you very warm greetings from Mexico City, the capital of our republic.